How do guys, and welcome back to Edgar TV, the channel that answers all those questions that people are mildly interested in. And one of the questions that's been coming up a lot that I've seen, both in my comment section, on my social media, all the platforms I'm on at the bottom there, you'll see just below, and obviously all the Facebook groups that I follow, I've noticed that actually the retro dartboard is coming up quite a lot. And there's a lot of talk regarding what the difference is between the now dartboards and the retro dartboards with the round wire and the staples and all those things in them. So I managed to source one and we'll have a look. So first of all, if none of you have seen one of these old style dartboards before, this is what they look like a little bit closer up. Now the first thing you'll notice is the wires themselves are much thicker. So a round wire, that's what it was known as, rather than like this diamond wire we've now got. A round wire, which means obviously round. Bigger, more chance of bounce outs. The other thing you'll notice is the wire actually just sits on top of the board. It's not like the modern day spider wires, which I'll get to shortly. The wire just sits onto the board and it is held on, you'll see here, by these staples. These staples on this board have been actually quite well placed in the fact that they're not actually interfering with the trebles. But on some of the boards, they used to put the staples actually inside on the wire here, coming across. So actually what you'd get is you'd get a bit of the treble space reduced based on the fact that staples there. Staples obviously increase the risk of bounce outs. I mean, look at the size of those and the roundness of those when you put it against like the size of my finger, for example, there. The other thing you get with these boards is you get a little bit of play with the wires. Now this is interesting. So the wires, because they're just sat on top and held in, so these wires come down here, they're pinned down, and that just holds this wire on. If you see, it's not actually driven in or connecting with the board. So you can actually get, if we look at things like this 16 over here, for example, you can see here, let me see if I can move the camera just to help you out a little bit, from the top angle, you can see how it actually reduces in size. And this was a problem throughout. So for example, if this were the outside wire and you see it actually makes the target smaller, it does work the other way round as well. Let's say you was trying to fill up the treble 20, for example, and you got a dart right at the top and you could just grow the treble, make it a little bit bigger. So there's play actually within the wires as well, which makes it a little bit awkward when we're trying to measure. Now when it comes to this, I'm not the guy to be measuring this stuff. I don't have a clue. I'm not very technical with this side of things, but luckily I can go to Thornton Dart's kitchen and he can help us out. So the measurements are in, that gives us a chance to look at the averages. Now we had to really think about this because we managed to find some segments that was actually measured really small. 7.31 was the smallest we found, which actually when you look at the averages of those scores you can see a major difference. 7.31 even on the retro board comes up quite small. When you put to a modern board of 9.49, that is absolutely tiny. A huge difference there based on the wires being pushed around by previous darts. So we did have to have a little bit of a tinker with that, but we did manage to get these scores here. So you can see that actually the modern day board scoring significantly higher in the playing surface area on the width of both the trebles, the doubles. Look at the difference in the wire as well. Interesting point here though, the bullseye is actually bigger on the retro board, and I'll get back to that in a moment to show you why even that can be seen as a negative, but we'll get back to that very, very shortly. So percentages, how it works, because you might think 8.17, 9.49, that's not much of a difference, but in percentages the modern day board is actually 14.95 84% bigger on the trebles. Now, when you look back to history and you look at John Lowe, Bob Anderson, Phil Taylor, Eric Bristow hitting mid-90 averages on these boards, that just shows you how much more impressive it is when you think it is 14% smaller and 13% smaller on the doubles in relation to the modern day board on the width of those areas. The other thing is the wire is now 84.44% smaller than it was in them days, obviously reducing the risk of the bounce outs quite drastically. With those round wire boards, much higher increase on the bounce outs, which could actually dictate a game if you have a lot of non-counting darts against a player of an equal ability. 84% is a huge difference. Obviously they got a bull was a bit bigger, 6% bigger or 6.5% bigger on the bull, but again that can be a negative, like I said earlier, because just look at this side-by-side comparison. Instantly you look and think, well, it looks a lot neater, a lot tidier, because it is. All the wires that are sitting on top of the board, you'll see here, connecting into the 25. So we are increasing the risk of the bounce out massively. And not only that, we've got staples around the bullseye, reducing the playing space inside the bullseye. So although it's wider, we are reducing area because we're losing area for the staples, and we have a lot more wire. Throwing at that target on the right hand side, we are going to have significantly more bounce outs. It's going to be a lot harder to hit things like shots like 65 where you might go 25 for tops, compared to the now just clean area that we get on the shot there on the left hand side. Just a complete crisp area because that spider wire and the wire going underneath the surface rather than being stapled on top. So significant increase in the bounce outs. Despite that 6%, I think that is completely eradicated by the amount of wire and risk to that area. And like I say, fair play to those players from the past who was able to hit these big averages on this board. A lot of risk of bounce out there, and obviously significantly smaller playing areas. If you've enjoyed this video, guys, please do hit a like on it. That is the thumbs up button underneath. Subscribe to Edgar TV if you haven't done so already, and I'll catch you all soon, guys, for some more Edgar TV.